First people that ever left. That's good. That shows you all the sense of humor. I need, if I could have a father for Mr. Speaker, he has two parts to read. One is extremely important. Another important father here, really. Thank you. And is there some young person who'd like to be George Washington? Would you like to be George Washington? Okay, great. Thank you. And how about a young person who'd like to be George Jefferson's law teacher? And a young person who'd like to be Lambert Carter, who is from a very prominent, wealthy family. There you go. Thank you. Would you like to be the clerk? You're not going to have to read, but if you sit at the clerk's table, there's a feather there, and you can take a note. Don't listen to anybody. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you a little bit more, but we need to be waiting at the door of the hall and back. I wanted you to see exactly what this building looks like from this angle, because it does set up here a circle better. So let me circle again, and we'll wait at the door, and I'm going to be a landowner over 21 years of age. What do you suppose the requirements were for a voter to even vote for one of these elected officials? Do you have anybody to guess? What's that? You had to be smart. You had to be smart enough to own some land on your country. Any other? You had to be male. You had to be male. Anything else? Okay, the same requirements actually. Again, you had to be a gentleman over 21 years of age, a gentleman. In other words, I could be able to vote. You had to be free. You could not have been an indentured servant or a slave. You had to be white, and you had to own a certain acreage. And after the mid-18th century, that was 100 acres out in the country or a big business in town, and I certainly didn't have those qualifications either. So many of us here could not have voted. The majority of us could not have voted in the 18th century. This particular group. Why do I say that? Ladies, young people, and so forth. Now, the governor would call your assembly. He had the right, that was a right of his, to call and dissolve sessions of the assembly, the Burgesses, and the council. You Burgesses would meet in the lower room there, called the Hall of Burgesses. And you were a very important gentleman, and you liked protocol, so we're going to ask that you please remain standing until Mr. Speaker requests that you all be seated. You just go in there and stand in front of the green benches until Mr. Speaker requests. You come here to the capital city to discuss and to debate issues. And let's imagine that you were actually here in 1759 when George Washington was a new Burgess in Fredericks County. He's come to represent the people of Winchester. He's going to introduce a bill to the people of Winchester. I see that Mr. Washington's riding up on horseback now, and he's tying up to the wall over there. And inside the wall, I hope you all have an imagination. You're in trouble. And inside the wall, there are gentlemen standing around, and they're exchanging tobacco notes, and they're buying things clearly, and they're discussing business, foreign goods, tobacco prices for the time. Does anybody have a question that I can try to answer for you before the doors open and we go in? And by the way, when we go in there, I'll take the speaker with me to the front, Mr. Washington with me to the front, and the young clerk, and Mr. Landon Carter and Mr. George Wood can just remain standing with their family. There we go. Time to go.
I believe Mr. Washington of Frederick County has a petition to introduce.
The good citizens of the town of Winchester complain of pig erosion spoiling the main street and the springs in the town. I hereby make a motion that the hawks be prevented from running at large in the town of Winchester.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Is there any discussion about that? Let's debate. George Wood, you always have a lot of suggestions.
I think this is a good idea, but I think the bill should cover the towns all over the colony.
I see Landon Carter shaking his head. We lost Landon Carter. Thank you very much. Is there any more discussion about this? These are very interesting views. And these are points then that we probably want to keep in mind as this comes to a vote. So let's bring it back to Mr. Speaker.
If there is no more discussion, we will take a vote. All in favor say aye. All those against the bill say nay. Well, since we're going to run in the street.
Usually I do go about Easter. People that voted nay.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
What is it that we were voting on? Well, were we voting on all of the counties or on or just one? George's.
On George's window, the one off front of the street.
Actually, I don't believe it should pass the lower house at first. It didn't pass the upper house at first. So what happened is it goes back to the committees then, and they work it over, and it needs 3 readings in each house anyway. And this is the general business that would have gone on here. And finally, this bill was passed by the lower house, but then it had to go up and be approved by the upper house. So let's turn the clock up to about 5 years. And it's 1765, and that gentleman there, would you please stand up, Lieutenant? Would you just stand for a minute?
That's you.
Okay, that's great. All right, Patrick Henry is standing to present his Stamp Act resolutions and his accusations against the Crown, for which came his famous cry, taxation, representation. Mr. Speaker, then Warrington, be careful, young man, lest you speak treason. And Mr. Henry was a new Burgess at this time. Mr. Henry's response to this, and to all of you, was, if this be treason, make the most of it. You can have time to sit back down. Can you imagine standing over there at the door, a young student, his name was Thomas Jefferson, listening at the door, and he was amazed at Mr. Henry's speaking power. And then later on, he did say that it was Patrick Henry who set the ball of the revolution in the ocean. Now, you gentlemen then, for the following years, would discuss your rights as Englishmen until 1776, when you presented, or was Edmund Pendleton that presented your resolution for independence. And Edmund Pendleton was the senior Burgess that helped George Washington here with his pig bill. Now, speaking of your pig bill, or your livestock bill, Mr. Washington, we do need to get that above. We need to get it to the upper house. So will you help lead your college to the joint conference, please? You're all great. You're all great. The joint conference room was a good place for balls, concerts, and for getting together and for compromises. If any of you have ever been on a committee, any of you young people ever been on a committee? Well, those rooms that we just passed were committee rooms, and bills like Mr. Washington's would have to be worked over in those committee rooms. Where's Mr. Washington? Where'd he go? Do you recognize yourself here? Looks as though you've grown a little bit older, but back when you introduced your livestock bill, after it was passed by the lower house, it had to go into the upper house and be approved. Then hopefully it would be signed by the governor, and then it would cross the ocean, and hopefully would be signed by the king. And that was sometimes it was a year or two before you knew that your law was legal, so it was a long, hard process. And sometimes it was very frustrating. Your bill was not passed, or was not approved by the upper house the first time. So what could members of each house do here in this joint conference room to come to an agreement on your bill? Any guesses? Good place for getting together for what? Debate. You're going to debate it and then hopefully try to come to a compromise. And if you fly above this building in an airplane, you look down on the capital H that you saw when you were standing on the south side of the building. You're standing in the center bar of this H. And this was a meeting place, built as a meeting place for meeting of your minds to make easier your compromise, to facilitate that.
Over here we have Edmund Pendleton, who presented, or who helped Mr. Washington with his pig bill, known as the great compromiser. And later on, he helped you to decide and see how independence could be worked out and could be handled. And he was the gentleman who presented your resolution for independence below. And that was carried to Philadelphia and presented by your colleague, Richard Henry Lee, at the Continental Congress. Mr. Robinson, John Robinson, you recognize yourself. You were then the speaker at that time. You were. You haven't changed much. You got sort of a big boot down there. You're the one that warned Mr. Henry, be careful, young man, lest you speak treason. Mr. Henry, very outspoken still 10 years later, from St. John's Church outside of Richmond, cried, give me liberty or give me death. Patrick Henry, then the Virginian, came to be known as the voice of the Revolution. Virginia also gave us General Washington, the sword of the Revolution, and she also gave us the pen of the Revolution. Anybody? Thomas Jefferson. And it was his pen that severed the cord with the mother country with this big document, his Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson and his very close friend James Madison, who was a neighbor over the mountaintop from Jefferson, fought for the rest of their adult years for your right of religious freedom. And these two gentlemen were gentlemen who did not have religious freedom when they held offices in this colony. Anybody have a question before we look into the upper house and go to the high court below? Anything I can try to answer for you?
What was the religion?
Anglican Church, yeah. You had to, actually, Britain observed, and so did this colony, religious tolerance, but still not religious freedom, separation of church and state. There were other religions, and you could practice your own religion, and nobody would bother you, as long as you have supported monetarily the Church of England and partook in the sacraments 4 times a year. But in order to be official, you had to conform to the Church of England until the Revolution. Anything else I can try to answer for you? All right, what we're going to do is pass by the council chamber, and that was the upper house, and as you look into that council chamber, imagine the governor seated at the head, and 12 Virginia Englishmen appointed for life by the king seated around him, wearing 3 hats. There was no separation of powers for those gentlemen. So they, as justices, would sit on the high court below. As legislators, they were members of the upper house, and with executive powers, they advised the government. So when we go through those, if I can have the young people sit on the jury benches, and about 5 or 6 adults stand in front as justices, please. And if your son wanted to be a lawyer, he wasn't going to receive that gentleman because training ground. Jonathan Faithful is standing in the High Court, which tries major crimes such as murder, arson, and grand theft. Jonathan is an indentured servant from Richmond County, and he's been waiting down in the jail for 2 months for trial. Mr. Hornsby, will you stand, please? Mr. Hornsby, you accused Jonathan of having stolen meat, wine, and more from your warehouse. Is that true?
Yes.
Jonathan, you have your English common law rights, innocent until proven guilty, to face your accuser, to state your case, to make your plea, and trial by jury. You also face several big wigs up here that are going to determine your case. Now, poor Jonathan cannot afford a lawyer. Back at that time, it was a privilege rather than a right. You're going to have to plead for yourself. You plead? You plead innocent or guilty? Innocent. Just a case of mistaken identity, right? Now, Mr. Hornsby, you have maintained that several of your slaves saw Jonathan stealing his ham from the warehouse. True?
Yes.
True. That brings up an interesting point. Where are Mr. Hornsby's witnesses? Are they here? Not here. Why not? Because slaves couldn't testify in court. But Mr. Hornsby, you swear that your slaves lie to you. What kind of evidence is that today? Hearsay? Jonathan, I'm feeling that you're hiding your thumb. What is that mark on your thumb? What is that brand? Have you been accused of a major crime and found guilty before? Well, that mark means to you gentlemen of the jury that if you find Jonathan guilty today of another major crime, these justices may not be able to give him another chance. Poor Jonathan. Now, this is no laughing. As judge of the jury, you've been instructed to go to the third floor and to come to a verdict without meat, drink, or candle. Right, no, on jury, they're right back here. Will the spokesman stand, please? Do you find Jonathan guilty or not guilty? What do you suppose will happen to Jonathan? This is a major crime. Major crime in high court. He's up for life. Gentlemen, we get to this week together for a minute here.
According to the laws of Virginia, you will be hung by the neck until dead.
Well, actually, in the real case in the 18th century, Jonathan didn't confess his crime to the chaplain on the way to the gallows. So now you have to go back to jail and await your trip to Hangman's Lane. Let's give our participants. Joining the tour, and if you go through that door and out the gate, you can find out more about crime and punishment down at the jail.
Now we're going to the jail. Yep. How far did you get, sir? We're in the program. They didn't need to go through. Okay. In you go. All right. Your twin was just in there. I was waiting for him. Look at the body. Don't get too far away. Up here, front and center, right up here. Person. Both. You want to show up in the picture and make
So we started over here. Your miller and have your dress altered, your suit cut differently, or your wig changed, or you got a wig on your head. So I would say that these folks here are probably more fashion conscious, and if you had to deal in percentages, that a larger percentile of free Virginians were wearing wigs down in your large cities like Philadelphia and Boston. And another thing is that this is a tiny city. See, Virginians don't make their money in factories. There are no factories to mention in Virginia before the American Revolution. We don't need factories. We grow tobacco, we send that to England, and we have the best stuff in the world shipped in here from England. So our manufactured goods come from England no matter where they're manufactured. If they're made in France, the English buy them and sell them to us. We're a colony, we can't deal with anybody else. So we don't live in cities, don't live in towns. Men come to town from their plantation to conduct business, engage in politics, vote, go to court. Everybody is dressed very fancy. Everybody is very interested in looking well. And what you find is that a wealthy man like this can afford to wear a suit of clothes that would cost me a year's pay. He can afford to wear a wig on his head that would cost me 8 months of my pay. And if he's wearing that wig, by George, he wants me to know it's a wig. He doesn't want me to think he's let his hair grow. He wants me to know that he can afford that. Because wealthy Virginians wear wigs, because the king wears a wig and the power base in England wear wigs, us middling sorts of Virginians, us middle class people, we like to look like you wealthy people, sir. So I got a silk waistcoat here. Now I'll have to wear it a long time. It'll look bad. No, I probably owe money on it, even when it's worn out. And I might have a very fancy wig that I owe money on. So what you've got is people going into debt to look good, because if they look good, they know they'll do good. Y'all know what yuppies are? Because the world changed that much. You've got to package yourself properly. It's that simple. And this is the capital city of England's largest and wealthiest mainland colony. But because there are no factories, there are no lower middle class people to work in the factories. We certainly don't have the masses of poor free people that you find in big cities like Philadelphia. Those jobs are filled by people called slaves. And slaves make up 51% of the population of Virginia, and their heritage, their history, their culture is not being recorded. So we're English here, even though 51% of the population is not. We're not yet the Red American melting pot. If you came here 3 weeks after the Boston Tea Party and walked up to this man on the street and said, you know, you're not an Englishman, there'd be a fight. He'd poke you right in the nose because he believed he was. He believed he ought to pay the tea tax. That we suffered the rights and the privileges and the obligations that's stated in the Magna Carta. And it takes a little more taxation and aggravation on the part of the Crown and Parliament to put this bunch, who have an economy built upon one product, tobacco, and one customer, England, to throw away the government. You throw away the government, you throw away the economy too. Remember, clothes you wear, the food you eat, the hair you wear on your head has been shipped in here from England. By George, we're English and we're proud of it. And a little thing called the Townsend duties finally turned the trick here. The Townsend duties are a simple tax, but by the time they travel through the hands of 8 or 10 middlemen, get to me, and I have something to sell to you, it's double the price of everything I have to sell. And Virginians do the same thing you do today. Supposing you go home and turn your television on, and Dan Rather himself says, I don't know what's happened, but you know, every country that makes cars outside the U.S. is double the price of their cars. So if you're going to buy a German car, a Japanese car, you're going to pay twice as much for it tomorrow as you would have paid for it today. I mean, I buy Ford, they put them together in the United States, right? They got Chevrolets, they still make here. I'll buy American, we'll show them. That's exactly what Virginians did. About the middle of 1769, when the Townsend duties began to reach into the pocket of everybody in Virginia and double price of everything. We said, hey, 15-yard penalty, boy, we're not English anymore with Virginia. Down the path, that would lead to becoming American. So it takes a little more aggravation. The prime example of how English we are is the fact that because the King of England is wearing a wig, and the men that surround him wear wigs, 9 out of 10 of Virginia's free men are willing to take a straight razor and shave the hair off of their head so they can wear somebody else's hair or some animal's hair. That is an amazing figure to me. What do you think about that? Thomas Jefferson shaved his head when he was a young man. Patrick Henry shaved his head his whole life. George Washington. Is George Washington wearing a wig? What do you think? He looks like he's wearing a wig, doesn't he? Fellows, in order to do business, engage in politics, or maybe most important, get a date Saturday night, you got to look like you're wearing a wig. So you don't have enough hair, we'll do something about that. We'll fix you up. That's George's own hair. Yeah. He simply let it grow and fixed it so it looked like he was wearing a wig. Take your hat off a second. Let's see. I don't mean to pick on you now, but me and you went to church on Sunday. I'll get you some good-looking 18th century clothes. Me and you went to church on Sunday in 1766. Nobody would sit with us. Everybody would think me and you were a couple of them short-haired hippie weirdos. The minister would call us aside and he'd say, hey, boys, I'm glad to have you in church. But if you're going to be back in church next week, I'd like to see you put some hair on. Seems like I heard something like that in 1966. He said, what I can do for you, sir, is fix you up with some spare hair. What do you think? Is that close enough to your color? Let's see. We'll tuck this right up under here like so. Oh, we get by with that. What do you think? You look like he's wearing a wig, sure. That's called a kid. It tucks up under your hair in the back, and if it's the right color, it does what you look like you're wearing a wig. Very popular with many of the young men and college boys of the day. Did you like that one? He didn't seem to be too enthusiastic. How about a curly kid? Girls look better. And of course, if like most men, you want a wig, we make any sort of wig you like. There are 115 recognized styles of wigs in English society. The wigs you see in here today were made here, but they're not props. They're made for somebody who must wear that particular wig in his job. We do put wigs on a few of our ladies as well, but only a few. They're in here because they were dirty. About every 3 weeks, sir, your wig looks bad. You bring it back, I'll wash it and redo it. This one's getting a perm. The curling rods are made of clay like the pipes in this, but the setting lotion is sugar and water, and the curlers will have to stay in this wig. Are you ready for this? 8 days. Would you let me leave curlers in your hair 8 days? Neither would anybody else. So by the way, ladies, curlers are for wigs and hair pieces, never for your hair. I can do your hair, but I'll do your hair with a curling iron. Do you have a curling iron at home? Have you seen a curling iron? Modern curling iron. Does this look like the curling iron you find in an average American home? It's got a barrel that gets hot. Does yours have a round barrel? Sure. And how about a clamp that holds the hair against the barrel? If you look at it this way, it really looks a lot like your curling iron, doesn't it? This one is cordless, man. You can take this one camping. Take 4 hours to do your hair. The hair will last about 5. So if you're bald tonight, if I do your hair, you'll be beautiful. Governor will want to dance with you. But you think about Cinderella. Cinderella who had to leave the ball at midnight. You just pay attention to your hair and leave before your hairdo does, okay? For a quick hairdo, ma'am, you need hair in a hurry. You've been cooking all day hair smoke, no time to spend with a barber. Spare hair, this is you. You just pin that on right there. It's going to look much better on you than it does on me. What do you think? These are called heartbreakers. Heartbreaker? Yeah, you can get them in any color you'd like. Bring me a scrap of cloth left from your best ball gown. Scrap from when you make the gown. I'll match your hair color, put the scrap in, you got hair to go with your ball gown. Now, for you, ma'am, how about a braid with a string of pearls in it? Everybody will know the fellow who brought you to church is totally covered in money, right? Any of you young ladies not married, braid with a string of pearls means your daddy's rich. Very pretty young lady, rich daddy. They're going to be guys that want to make your acquaintance when church is open, no doubt. And there were a few women in Virginia who wore wigs. Only a few, because I got to shave your head and make your hair look. What do you think? How about it? A lot of drag was pretty up, but every time Rick hit the ball. Looked like a contemporary singing artist named Sinead O'Connor come quitting out. 4 kinds of hair to make a wig out of. Horsehair, yak hair, goat hair, and people hair. The good news about horsehair, sir, is that it's hair from his mane, never his tail. Nobody wanted to wear the north end of the South Mountain. Samples of the 4 different kinds of hair on the table here for you to look at. Take a look at them, feel them, decide which one would work best on your head all day. And please feel free to ask questions.
Do you dye any hair or is it all natural
No,
color?
sir, it's all natural. Dyeing it shortens his life. Dyeing her hair shortens her life. Some of the things we do that would dye hair were arsenic or lead. So we need to both dye them.
One that always does the program that explains everything and all day long if somebody works.
That's correct with the fat. It's hairdressing. George Washington used it just as it is. If I want to use it in your hair, I'll put a stick of cinnamon in there so your hair's nice. And for you, a piece of lemon.
Who wears that white saddle?
That is a man's wig, but a woman wears it. She is demonstrating the different looks of the English. It's a Macedonian wig, worn by the second or third wig.
And a negligee cap down there. At the end of the day, the gentleman wants to get out of his tight-fitting coat, wants to get out of his hot, tight wig, so he replaces the tight-fitting coat with the loose-fitting Vernon coat. He has his head shaved in order to wear his wig, and he replaces the wig with the negligee cap, or the baseball cap of the 18th century. Call it that because now in this outfit, gentlemen, you can go play cricket. And it's very fashionable. You can also walk up and down the street. Everyone knows that you're very wealthy. You have a very expensive fabric on here. It's cotton, but it's imported from India, and it's hand-printed and it's hand-painted. And you paid as much for this as the gentleman walking up and down the street, his 3-piece leisure suit in silk stripes. So everyone knows you're wealthy and you're comfortable. No one talks business with you. Of course, if you want to complete the outfit, you really should have this cane to look very stylish to go along with it. Again, imported from England, of course. The little suit here is a child's suit. Should have breeches with it. It's just a miniature of what the gentleman's wearing. This little suit here is an exact copy of one we have in our collection. A little boy by the name of Dudley Cotton was about 5.5 years old when he wore this. The reason he has an off-white silk suit is that his grandfather was the governor of Massachusetts in 1776. We think Dudley was having a growth spurt, and he probably only wore it one time. We feel that the tailor knew this too. He took shortcuts. He tacked down the collar, tacks down the revers, doesn't put all the buttonholes in that should be there, and he doesn't give Dudley any pockets. No frogs or stones in those pockets for that little guy. And so Dudley was quite well dressed at that time. Now, boys and girls' clothing is very generic in the 18th century because we don't worry about whether it's a boy or a girl. We're going to put them all in dresses. So the little dresses here on the counter, even the little muslin hanging over here, is typical children's wear for the 18th century. As long as you're dependent on someone else, you should be wearing a dress. Now, this is the latest style for 17th century. The first ready-to-wear fashion clothing you can come into a store and buy. Up until this time, everything has to be custom-made. It's fashion. The boys, we might be wearing this pink because it's an active color. It seems to be the trend for the boys to wear teal back then. So both the sash and the petticoat would be teal. The girls might be wearing blue because that's a passive color, and girls are going to be passive. It's got a lot of grow pleats in the bodice and the skirt so that it can grow better. Of course, as well as wearing dresses, boys and girls need to know how to stand correctly. So once you've taught them to walk, you need to teach them to walk properly. First position, ballet. Stays are going to help to convince those muscles that that's just the normal way to stand. Shoulders back and down, head up very straight. And we put a little boning in the front, about 6 pieces, 4 more in the back. And of course, every time they go to bend a little bit, they get stuck in the tummy, and they have to stand up nice and straight. Now the boys do get rid of their stays, and they get rid of their dresses. That's going to be Mom's prerogative to make that decision. She can do that anywhere from the age of 5 to 10. Of course, when that happens, then the boy gets his breeches. He now knows his manners. He's ready to take his place in the adult world. He goes to work with Dad. He's no longer a child. So maybe Mom's nicer when she waits till 10 than to do it at 5. Of course, for girls and women, we don't have that option. We're never going to get out of our stays, nor are we going to get out of our dresses. Stays are very important. They're not optional. In fact, if you are a widow or an orphan, the courts and the parish will provide you for stays. So all girls and all women are wearing stays. You have a lot of options, though, in the stays. When you're working, you may have a pair similar to the blue ones up here called jumps. They still have only 6 pieces of boning in them in the seams. That way you can lift and bend and twist and carry and supervise your work. Of course, when you're formally dressed, they may need formal stays. Those pink ones up there, each one of those little ridges has that boning or maybe wood caning in them. Now you can't do any of those things. You just sit and look lovely. Which pair do you want, ladies? It's rounded out your rib cage. It's taken out all your curves. Simplified your figure into that nice cone shape. Of course, that's what you want. That's what you need to wear those styles. That's why I don't need the patterns. I don't need to measure. I can just wrap you up in these stays and make it customized gown. Now, what stays don't do for you, they don't give you a good waist. Why don't you just let your waist go because they're only coming here to waist. So we have to do something to create the illusion of a small waist. And the best thing to do is enhance your hips. So we say side hoops, false hips, and the wider you go with these, the smaller your waist is going to look. It's going to give you power. Those ladies that are the widest are the wealthiest because it takes 5 more yards of fabric when you're 3 feet wide on each side. Of course, that also permits you to block the doorways, and I don't do a bad job right now. These it takes up 2 or 3 chairs, and everybody has to move out of your way. And when you're really wide, they hinge, and you just lift them up and walk through the center doorways. That fabric is very expensive, and we're not going to waste money on putting pockets in the ladies' garments. We'll just simply put the openings. So even your best gowns will have slits on each side of them. Your petticoat underneath just ties at the waist and leaves those openings to go down through those slits into the very top of your side hoops that have the openings up here. And now you've got your pockets. You only need this one pair. Doesn't matter what color they are. They're all covered up. You have your hands free to use your fan properly, and the pockets hate them. Because you try to get through all these layers, and I've only got my gown, skirt, and my petticoat on today. So in the winter, when I have 3 or 4 petticoats on, it's even harder to get down in there to my storage area. Of course, we've adapted it today. I usually see 2 or 3 ladies with blonde hair, say fanny packs, and you wear them on the outside. Now, when we're working, we certainly don't want to have all that bulk. So we're still practical. We have a pair of pockets, or maybe one pocket like this. We just tie that around our waist. And we have our storage area. Lucy Lockett lost her pocket. Kitty Fisher found it, and that's what happens when you don't tie them tight enough to use them. Since you are our chief shoppers, gentlemen, I do have a lot of items for you. Liquors, tobaccos. I do fine laundry. If you're in here without the lady along, you need for laundry and ironing done, just bring your things in here. Shoes are another item that I would be selling. I compete with all of the craftsmen in town. Shoes down the street are a good shoe, but they're not name brands, and that is exactly what mine are. Didsbury's from London, the ones that Colonel Washington wants to wear. Buys his directly from London. If you don't like Didsbury's, I've got Carpus and I have Gresham's. Now, once you buy your shoes, you've got to make the decision how you're going to wear them. I won't do that for you. These are symmetrical. There's no left and there's no right. So if you're going to be fashionable, you'll rotate them every day. You'll let them hurt your feet because you're fashionable. If you don't want to be uncomfortable, you'll be practical. Let them stay on the same foot all the time. Conform to your foot. Then what you can do is be fashionable with your buckles. You never have the buckles right with the shoes. You buy them separately. And you don't have to buy just one pair. In fact, I always advise you to have at least 8 pairs of buckles so that you have a different set each day. Just punch the holes and these flip-flop back and forth for those folks that are fashionable and rotating them. Now, 7 days a week, you need 7 sets, but you need another set for evening wear. And they need to be those shiny, bright ones there in the antique case. They're simply made out of paste, flint. And they're like rhinestones, but they're going to catch the candlelight, and candlelight doesn't do much for you in the evenings. You need to be light, bright, and shiny, and that's going to give you a reflection in your shine, so that when you dance the minuet, everyone sees how well you do those steps. Smaller ones, ladies, are yours. The larger ones are for the gentlemen. Another item to be very fashionable, gentlemen, are clock stockings. Of course, your best features, that calf muscle. You want the ladies to admire it, and the clocking catches the eye, pulls it right up to the calf muscle, and then she admires it as she should. Now, I also sell lottery tickets and theater tickets, and I'll extend your credit up to a year. So what can I do to tempt your eye, empty your pocketbooks, and of course, all in a fashion. You're more than welcome to ask questions. There's so many things in here. We don't always get around to them. So if you've seen something that you'd like to know about in particular, please ask. Examine our stitching.
What did the children wear? Want to have fun?
Again, I want to give you a little third-person introduction to the court. I'm going to make it very brief. If you'd like to hear more of a third-person general conversation of the building, please come back at 4:30 from 4:30 to 5. There will be a costume interpreter here to tell you everything you want to know from a third-person viewpoint. But right now, I'm going to briefly tell you everything about this court so that we know what's going on here. The most important bench in the entire court is this one up here, where the justices would sit. In the 18th century, the justices or the magistrates were the judges. Today we have one judge. In the 18th century, we have a panel of justices. To become a justice, you have to be a freeholder, meaning you're white, male, only age 21, property Protestant. And these gentlemen were the wealthiest of the wealthy. You can tell just by looking at them, can't you? And we selected exactly that today to get the same biased opinion that we would have gotten in the 18th century. So you can see who were making the decisions and what kind of decisions they were making by the gentlemen we selected here today. Below the gentlemen, we have a jury. Jury bench right here. The jury also consists of freeholders, white males, and these 12 property Protestants. But as you can see, we are in jury trial today, but it's been far more lenient on people we selected. We just sat the people down if you want to sit there. And so the next 30 minutes, you're all male. You're all 21, you're all property. The board of the jury bench is the clerk. Now, these gentlemen up here might be wealthy men, they might be justices, but they're not necessarily legally trained. So this gentleman right here has been trained in law down at the Public Records Office for 7 years, and he's probably the most legally trained person in the entire court. So if these gentlemen have a question concerning law, legal procedure, they just need to ask the clerk right here to give you a help. For the first table are two benches. These are attorneys' benches or lawyers' benches where the lawyers sit waiting for their cases to come up. And on these two boxes on the side of the attorneys' benches are sheriff's boxes where the sheriff and one of the subordinate officers, the other sheriff or constable, would sit. The constable also acts as the crier to the court, similar to a bailiff today, calling the court session, keeping the court order while it's in session. If you're a litigant in the case, you literally take the stand. You stand up here facing the justices to show you respect to them, much like in a traffic court or something like that today, like the lower court. I'm sure none of you have been there, so you don't know anything about that. But anyways, that's the legitimate court area right here. That's the only part of the building that's actually the court, the area I just described. Everything out here is the common area. It's part of the courthouse, but it's not part of the court. Divided by this railing right here called the Bar of the King's Justice, or the bar, and today we hear the Bar Association, the bar examination passing the bar. Here's the bar itself, right here. This is what they're talking about. If you're not an officer of the court, a lawyer licensed by the general court, or a litigant case formally summoned forward by the constable, you cannot come past this point right here. I just passed the bar. Now, you folks out here, you would be considered bystanders or standers by. I like to emphasize bystander because you wouldn't be sitting. These benches are purely anachronistic, and I humbly apologize for the fact you have to sit down here. I hope you accept my apology. But you'll all be standing to show your respect to the justices. But those of you who are standing, you have the deep moral satisfaction of knowing you're far more accurate than these people right here. So, now, a little bit about the cases we're going to see today. This is an interactive program, first of all. This is not something you're just going to come and watch. Some of you are actually going to participate in it. It's not just a bunch of people in funny clothes doing something in front of you. You folks actually can lend a hand in it. The cases we have today involve gaming. Gaming in 18th century is kind of weird. It's neither legal nor illegal. And the first case involves somebody who's coming to court to get his debt back that he lost gaming. Now, if you're in a game and lose over 10 pounds, you can come to court and get that money back. How would you like to go to Vegas and lose a whole bunch of money to get that back? Wouldn't that be great? Well, in the 18th century, you could do that. That was a law that was on the books to discourage gaming. So we need somebody who's coming in to get his money back. He's also accusing the person who was gaming of cheating. So we need somebody who's not only a loser, but a poor sport. So do we have anybody that fits that description? I think you fit that description, sir. Go forward and get your name put on the docket. And our second case involves a barkeep that's coming in because there's a person in the tavern that's gaming, and she thinks he's a vagrant. And in the 18th century, to be able to game, you had to have an occupation. You could not gamble as a job. You had to have some other sorts of income. And she thinks this person's making less living out of gaming. So does anybody ever want to keep a bar? Ooh, right? Hands are right up. Excellent. Go forward, get your name on the docket. And finally, we need a foreman of the jury. Somebody who can speak loud and clear. And can you meet that person? Thank you very much. You'll be told to read that. And finally, a few modern announcements before we get ready to begin. First of all, we have the fire marshal requires us to tell you that these doors back here are the only entrance and exit into the building. And the doors are not hung in a modern fashion. Modern doors for the exit doors will be hung so they open outward. These doors open inward. Hung in the 18th century fashion. We can get away with this because we're a museum. But in case of an emergency, please remain calm, remain in your seat. No matter how hard you push on these doors, they're not going to open. One of the staff members will go back and open the doors for you. We're highly trained in doing this. We've been trained to do this. And then you can follow us out, all right? We'll all cry out, God saves the king. Got it? So everybody might not have a part, we all got a line. So, welcome to the past.
Clerk, is the docket prepared?
Yes, your worship, the docket is prepared.
Call the court.
All rise, upstanding. At this time, all gentlemen who are not officers of the court will remove your hats, keeping them off out of deference to the justices which are out proceeding. Oyez, oyez, oyez. Silence is commanded throughout the court while His Majesty justices are sitting upon pain of imprisonment. All men or persons having anything to do with this court come forth and give your attention. If anyone has any claims within our suit process, come forth, ye shall be heard. God save the king.
God save the king.
Take your ease.
The first item on the docket, sir.
Yes, your worships, at a complaint of fraudulent gambling issued by one Daniel McDermott.
Daniel McDermott, come forward, please.
Against one Mr. John James Hewitt.
Call it forward.
John James Hewitt, come forward. Come forward, Mr. Dermott.
Your Honor, I am Benjamin Waller, I'm here to represent Mr. Hewlett in this lamentable affair.
Mr. Waller.
Thank you.
You're all but the issue before us, correct?
Yes, your worship. Declaration brought pen, Cusco Winsburg quit, 10th year King George III. One Daniel McDermott complains of John James Hewlett of a plea that rendered him 38 pounds of good and lawful money of Great Britain, which the said Hewlett did win from the the same Daniel McDermott by playing at dice. To wit, that whereas the said defendant, the 29th day of June 1770, at the parish of Brewton, the county of James City, did willfully cheat the plaintiff with loaded dice. Now therefore, the maximum penalty of 5 times the original wager, recoverable with cost and corporal punishment in case of willful perjury, is asked by the plaintiff, one Daniel McDermott. Thank you by me, James, Court Clerk, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Do you have anything to add to your complaint, Mr. Sir?
No, sir, the complaint is false. I would like the clerk to read the deposition of George Douglas.
Do you have that deposition, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, I do.
Your Honors, I must object to the reading of this deposition.
On what grounds, Mr. Wallace?
Your Honors, whereas the law of Virginia allows a deponent to be absent from the court due to illness or old age, or if he is across the seas, Your Honor, this Mr. Douglas is only on legal business in Maryland. Therefore, he cannot qualify for the hearing of the deposition or for the certificate of disability.
Recall that this was requested by a dentist from Accomack County some time ago, and it was determined at that time that Mr. Douglas was to be in Maryland for legal business, which was felt sufficient reason. It does say in the law, I recall, that you could have it for other reasons. It does not specifically identify the man It was received, Mr. Clerk, in a timely manner, is that correct?
Indeed, your worship, it's a timely manner, and also
Mr. Wallace given an opportunity to go to Accomack County to question the deponent?
Mr. Wallace, I received the deposition, sir.
I was told you had seen.
Sir, I was not present when it was taken.
But you have seen, so yes.
Well, I say, gentlemen, don't say it. So you'll allow that to be read?
I believe the act of time to interview or have to take counter deposition.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? We'll see you, man.
Yes, your worship. Deposition. Accomack County, 10th year of George III, King of Great Britain, George Douglas swears by the Holy Evangelist that on the day late in the month of last post, the opponent of one Daniel McDermott were playing at backgammon with John James Sheila at James Sheila's Tavern in the city of Williamsburg, where either the said Douglas or the said McDermott suggested that they play the game passing. They had only begun the game when the house dice were removed and another set of dice much rounded at the corners were handed to the said Hewlett through a hole in the window of the west side of Sheila's Tavern. Whereupon the said Hewlett did with the opponent 6 or 8 pistoles out of the said McDermott, all the gold pieces he had in his purse, about 10 or 12 pistoles. Afterwards, the opponent and the plaintiff agreed to share their losses at moiety, half and half, and they had another 38 pistoles to the defendant, but they lost another 38 pistoles to the defendant without the least suspicion of being cheated upon. Some nights later, George Douglas, Daniel McDermott, Mr. Littleton Iyer, and Mr. John Littlepage encountered the said Hewlett gaming in a habit shop at said Sheila's Tavern, whereupon the said Littlepage examined one of the dice and determined it to be a false or loaded die, but the said Hewlett threw the die he had in his hand away before it could be examined. Afterwards, the deponent saw lead picked out of the die which the said Littlepage had challenged. Then the deponent complained to believe they had been imposed upon by the defendant. And the said Douglas and the same McDermott determined to bring separate suits against the defendant so that neither would gain by action of the other. And the deponent declares that he shall suffer no loss or receive any benefit by the determination of the suit, and further the deponent says it's not signed on George Douglas, who worships, witnessed by Johnson Waller, Thomas Maxwell, Justice of Accomack County, co-signed in the court clerk, sir.
Very well. Your Honors, if I may, on the off chance that this deposition would be read into the record, I have prepared a bill of exceptions to it, which I now wish to submit to the file.
You may submit the clerk if you can to the record, sir.
Your Honors, I have one further motion.
And what is that, sir?
It is, Your Honors, that now that the deposition has been heard, it be stricken from the record and the jury be instructed to disregard it.
Well, you're asking me to practice words that have been read from these individuals' minds, but what cause, what reason?
Your Honors, I refer to the deposition itself, to which we must now turn, since it has been admitted. The deposition states that the plaintiff and Mr. Douglas were to receive their losses or their winnings and at moiety, gentlemen, half and half, meaning that they were partners in this action. And since they are partners, Mr. Douglas should be co-plaintiff with this man. Therefore, he should be here in court today. Therefore, the deposition is not in the way.
Partners? See, this is a partnership between you and I being on top of the case together. So I'm not saying this. What say you? Is deposition disallowed? This way, there is no partnership here. I mean, both sides of the one deposition, so you will not gain by it. The ruling of this bench, sir, your objection is overruled, to remain as a part of the court record. Very well, sir, do you have anything, any other witnesses here?
No, Your Honor. The deposition does plainly show that I was cheated with loaded dice. The defendant should be fined with and stood at the pillar.
Indeed, Your Honor. Gentlemen of the jury, I am happy indeed that it is up to you to decide this matter. You cannot permit this ruse to be perpetrated upon my client. For it is very clear from the deposition itself that most of the so-called evidence comes from a different occasion of gaming than was originally undertaken by this man and my client. You have observed and heard in the deposition that most of the narrative takes place some nights later, after the original incident of gaming. It is true that John James Hewlett did game with this man and with Mr. Douglas, but the deposition states they left the tables well satisfied with an evening's entertainment. It was only some nights later that the two men found my client in a different house with different gentlemen, for all we know, using a different set of dice. And whatever they found at that time cannot in any way be made to apply to the first occasion of gaming, which is the only matter that is under your consideration this afternoon. Therefore, I would point out, gentlemen of the jury, that what you have heard is simply the fact that a game was played, that three men got satisfied with the outcome. And therefore, there is no case here. And I bid you to, and implore you to find in behalf of my client and Virginia law.
Well, since there is no other, we shall refrain from the jury. If the jury will please rise and face the bench. Gentlemen, you may retire behind the bar. Gentlemen of the jury, you have heard the evidence here. I see before me the wisdom and the ages of these faces, and I know that you will reach the appropriate decision. I do not envy your position, but you have two things to consider. One, was there gaming? And if it was it fraudulent? That is the second. If it is fraudulent gaming, and the person is guilty, fraud must be then delivered for 5 times the amount. I know that you will reach a decision consistent with your own knowledge. Therefore, I'm going to sequester you in the jury room without benefit of candle, without benefit of heat, without benefit of food, without benefit of water, without benefit of relief. Until you reach your own decision. Not for taking away. We shall see. Do we have anything we may take care of while the jury is deliberating?
Yes, Your Worship.
What is it, sir?
Your Worships, I have a bill of complaint here issued by one Stalin Meyer. Stalin Meyer, please.
Come forward, please. Against whom, sir?
Against one William Watson.
William Watson, come forward. You'll put the issue before us.
Yes, Your Worship. Bill of Assembly in that case provided. Be it ordered by His Majesty Such Court of Lynchburg, James City, that same William Watson appeared before the said court to be examined concerning the premises, signed on scarlet fire, and before the state of the state judge.
Madam, how is it you're knowledgeable of this individual in the tavern?
Your Honor, I keep guard there, and I've seen him myself there, night after night.
You do not know his occupation at all, you inquire?
Oh, no, you know what he does or where he gets his money, unless it's by gambling. And if he's cheating, then Mr. Perry doesn't want to around his customers.
That's a good reason why he is. Well, Mr. Watson, Miss Benson would like to know, sir, where did you hail from and what is your occupation?
Your Honor, I am a British subject, and I know my rights, sir. And I know I'm innocent until proven guilty, sir. And I have absolutely nothing further to say.
Mr. Watson, you are not on trial. It's merely an inquiry as to your occupation. If it is necessary, the constable can place you in the pillory and you can debate for a while and perhaps your memory will return. Again, I ask you, sir, what is your occupation and where you hail?
I am from across the county, sir. I'm a land speculator, sir.
Thank you. Land speculator?
Yes, sir.
I take you in those lands, taking it from one nefarious person and selling it to another.
That's quite correct. I take it to the general court, sir, and I buy it, and I resell it for spiritual value, sir. It's fairly legal, sir.
Yes, it's a legal business, as I say. But you need a lawyer to practice in the general court. You are a lawyer in addition to
No, Your Honor, I am not.
Who is your lawyer?
Thomas Jefferson, sir.
Your cousin, isn't he? Well, I suppose, since Thomas has been practicing for a short period of time, but you know better than I, would he take the person who does not have some means to pay him?
I don't think he would take on this particular case.
You don't think he's going to? He's stated here in court, we can ascertain this. Jefferson is in, well, he's gone back to Monticello.
I will start over this week.
You swear on
I
oath?
certainly will.
We don't have to swear on oath.
You wear the penalty of perjury,
I
Mr. Watson.
certainly am, sir.
Thought you might be. Place your right hand on the lips, and I swear the intention of giving in this course to be appropriate, that the first act of God,
I
sir.
so swear.
He's been sworn, your worships.
He is sworn and he has Mr. Jefferson, so I've seen no other choice. This is a liberal suit. You may ask him, sir. He wishes to know if you will say who your attorney is again, sir.
Thomas Jefferson, I said it before, didn't I?
Thank you. He is sworn, so he's sworn. Very well. I suppose if you dismiss it now, you should give him that admission. Sir, this is gross. Agreed? Well, Mr. Bishop, we're going to dismiss this complaint against you. But you are free to go. But we would admonish you, sir, that you will be less civil while you are about the town of Wittenberg. So if you find yourself here in court, you may not find any compassion from the justice. Do you understand?
I certainly understand, and I'll try to be more congenial.
I suppose so. It does be more than try. Not if you are
Appreciate the vegetarian.
Constable, you have something?
Sir, my verdict has been reached.
Very well, bring it to record then.
Sir.
Gentlemen, you may come forward against the bar. Come forward, sir. Members of the jury, if you come forward. As you return to the jury, you may be seated, save your form, and I would ask you to please stand. Before I am told that the constable have reached a decision, we must respect the matter of Your Honor, we find defendant John James Hewitt guilty of gaming, but not guilty of fraud. I will consider the plaintiff's claim for 38 pounds and give judgment against the defendant for 28 pounds current money of Virginia and set him free without delay. Gentlemen, thank you for your deliberations and your wisdom. You have reached an appropriate decision, and I am sure that you have pleased neither party in this case. The defense does thank you for your efforts. So what do you say to this decision and the false clamor that you have made against us?
Your Honor, I'm shocked at this miscarriage of justice. Mr. Hewitt's trickery is no false clamor.
Your Honor, in view of the many irregularities in this case, I wish to appeal it to the 6th day of the General Court with your permission.
You have the right to appeal. You may do so upon posting bond and surety forward in the holy record. You are free to go, gentlemen.
I'm sorry, I have a judgment, but no money yet.
Is there anything else?
Your worship, that is the docket, sirs.
It's in the courthouse, sir.
All right. This court stands adjourned. God save the king.
God save the king. If you'll follow me outside, we'll give you a brief conclusion of
Inches. So there was a war. Oh,
Sure. Rules go back hundreds of years.
That opens up just like.
Holding roll.
Is this a
Oh yeah, they're all reproductions. The real ones, of course.
All the historic trees here at Williamsburg require about a 6-year apprenticeship. Well, I'm in my second. My wife's from Texas, so we decided this is where we wanted to live.
Oh my goodness, you really must be
Here.
a lathe.
Uh-huh.
A lathe, yeah.
Great wheelwood turning lathe.
Yeah, that's what gets you these ups around like that.
Right.
And that thing had two guys. Well, of course. He said in the summer. All right. Thank you.
All right.
They will work like 70-hour weeks. And they work. And you have to take care of what they're doing.
This is the governor's house. Not here. This is the stable, but the pictures I'm taking are around the governor's house. This is the horse stable. Feeding troughs up above there. This is the shed for the wagon wheels. That's the woodworker shop where I was just filming before. There's the governor's palace side of it. I'm going to go in a little bit. Oops. This is the front of the governor's palace. We're going to be entering where those people are right there.
Tell me something. You think you would have been impressed? Great Britain. And here they are again with the King's coat of arms. That was to remind everybody who came through the gate or through these doors that this is British soil, they are British subjects, the man who is here is appointed by the King and represents his authority here. And of course you immediately see this display of weapons, don't you? These are here purely as a importing home model from Europe. By now you're spotting these chest numbers on the stairs, isn't it? Think of that fabric today, sort of country and informal. Well, that's how it is a high fashion, and those covers protect the red silk upholstery underneath. It will only be removed for special guests. Which is not only his office, but it's also a storage place. He's responsible for several thousand items stored there, which included enough sterling silver plates to serve 60 people for dinner. Who does and does not see the royal governor? Some people might be going right back out the door. Others might be ushered through the parlor, meet with the governor's secretary in his small office, and be on their way. Very few are going to see the governor himself. If you were important enough to see the governor, we're standing now. And since all of you are very important, right? We'll be going there in just a few minutes. So as we go up stairs, I want you to be careful. Halfway up the stairs on the landing is an extra step that people don't expect. And quite often they're not even looking, because all the way up the stairs is a display of weapons like this. And as we go up, I want you to please stay to the left for two reasons. Number one, we'll probably meet another group coming down as we're going up. And number two, since this is a British household, it is only proper that we drive on the left. So as we go up, please be careful. Stay to the left. Watch that step on the landing as we go up. Follow me. We have a little extra step. What do you think? Important documents. The furnishings in this room are considered old-fashioned by Governor Gladstone's time. What's in style are the bright colors that you saw in the guest rooms and in his bedchamber. But he would keep these furnishings because he felt it reflected the tradition of British government here. The walls in this room are covered with tooled gilded Spanish leather. And we know from several accounts that that was the original wall covering here. So we were very fortunate that when this building was being reconstructed in the 1930s, we learned about an old house in England about to be it was very carefully removed from there and reinstalled here. So it is well over 200 years old. You can see evidence of the latest fashion again in the check covers on the chairs here. But here near the fireplace, one of the chairs has been uncovered. You can see the red silk upholstery underneath.
which also matches the drink pictures as well.
I don't have any.
From the mill, we know exactly what he had. I'll give you just a few examples. 56 ruffled shorts, 36 pair of shoes, 152 pair of silk stockings, 6 wigs, one of them new, never even worn, and numerous suits of silk, velvet, and brocade. He was also setting the style when it came to entertainment. Some of the guests who were staying in these guest rooms were visiting governors from other colonies. We'll see some rooms below where these guests would be entertained. We'll glance first into the dining room, which is all set for dinner. The main meal of the day served about 2 in the afternoon. Probably 4 or 5 courses here at the palace. You'll also see some desks in that room. If he had his councilmen here for dinner, after dinner they would conduct business there. Sort of the early version of the business luncheon, as we know of today. From the glance into the dining room, we'll step into the ballroom. After a 4 or 5 course dinner, I would think you'd be ready for some exercise. And I noticed earlier that most of you had your dancing shoes on today. And I know some of you for years have been taking dancing lessons out on your plantations under those dancing masters. So it is time to make your debut here at the Governor's Palace. So after a glance into the dining room, we'll step into the ballroom. As we go back down, remember, stay to the left, and please watch for that extra step on the landing. Now, if you were invited here by the governor, you could certainly come here to see LTDC. As the governor was receiving his guests, he will be standing at the center of the room next to the portraits of the royal monarchs whom he represented. We have the original portraits of King George III and his Queen Charlotte in their coronation robes. Now, many of you in attendance will be dressed in a very similar way, without the long robes, of course. You gentlemen will be wearing the knee breeches, very much the fashion. Of course, back then, until boys are 4 or 5 years of age, they're wearing dresses like the girls. So I'm sure it is a very happy day when a boy gets to be 5 or 6 and gets his first pair of knee breeches. Aren't you glad they changed that style? And gentlemen, you're wearing the knee breeches not only because you wish to be in fashion, but gentlemen, for you, this is an opportunity. They're very bold if you look the gentleman directly in the eye. Of course, ladies, as you lower your eyes in modesty, it's also an opportunity to check out the gentleman's legs. So just a little bit of fashion etiquette 200 years ago. Now, the people in this room will begin the dancing with the minuet, one couple at a time on the dance floor. Everyone else watching. Most formal dance. Well, if you did not know your dance steps, you didn't get out here on the dance floor to dance. You would be the subject of conversation on every plantation in Virginia for months or possibly years to come. You follow that with the country dance. Gentlemen lined up on one side, ladies on the other, everyone on the dance floor at the same time. It would also be impressive to furnishings here. Governor Bottomside had installed the Prussian blue painted wall cover with gold leather trim. When George Washington and Thomas Jefferson saw this room, they went back to their own plantations. Had rooms there done in the same color. He brought with him 3 crystal lustres, as they were called, to light this room, and he ordered 3 Dutch coffee machines, like the one you see there, burning coal, heating this room in the winter months, and using it for entertainment. Governor Bottomside is importing coal from England. When he died, there were 1,000 bushels of coal in storage on the property here. This is After several hours of dancing and entertainment here, perhaps at 11 o'clock or midnight, these doors would be open for us and we'd be invited into the supper room for some light refreshments or a late supper. I can't offer you the refreshments or the supper, but I can invite you to the room. He had ordered wall covering for this room from England, and we know it arrived because it's listed on the inventory, but it still enrolls in the attic. The upholsterer had not yet installed it. So we show this room without the wall covering to represent that. We do show something here that's the latest fashion, the window cover. I'm sure as we've gone through the rest of the building, you noticed all the Venetian blinds, or Venetian sunshades, as they would call them. But by the 1700s, they're old-fashioned. After all, they had been around in Europe from the 1200s. Marco Polo had brought them from China to Venice.
So what's replacing them? Linen screen shades, like you see here. They'll work just like our window blinds do today. And when you think about it, it's interesting the way the palace here reflected the history of Virginia. While Virginia is a royal colony, 7 royal governors live here in Collins Place. However, the last of those, Governor Belmore, leaves out the back doors here to the gardens, and before long is on his way back to England. Patrick Henry lives here for several terms as elected governor, followed by Thomas Jefferson, who's here in 1780. At that point in the war, they were afraid the British might come up the James and York River and take Williamsburg. So they moved the capital city of Virginia further inland to Richmond. And the palace was then used as a hospital, especially for treating wounded soldiers after the Battle of Yorktown. And while using it as a hospital, it was destroyed by fire. But as you exit out the back doors here, you're going to be able to explore 10 acres of gardens. We're about to talk about a zodiac gardener from England who supervised all the work that we have to do. If you follow the path all the way out through the far iron gate and then turn left, you'll find a maze. And you might find that interesting to explore. Directly to the left, down over the hill, is the canal, stocked with fish, ducks, and geese. Around to the front on the left is the entrance into the cellars. You can see the original foundations on which this building was reconstructed. Around to the front on the other side is the stable area. You can see our wheelwrights working here. And also in that same vicinity there is a 20th century estate house. They've been threatening to take everybody's car thus far.
You just walk around the side, that's all.
This is a cell from 1773, which was hospital patients were put here and chained so they wouldn't escape. It was prison-like furnishings. You wonder how they got better. Now this here, 1845.